Hey guys, we're talking about biomedicalization and the techno-scientific transformation of U.S. healthcare. Biomedicalization is the second transformation of U.S. medicine, which began around 1985, and the bio and biomedicalization emphasizes the importance of biological sciences that transform both the human and the non-human, like made possible by these techno-scientific innovations like molecular biology, biotech, patient data banks, bioengineering, all those types of things. And the term technoscience is just kind of a hybrid of science and technology because they're identifying that they're not the same thing, and so they both need to be represented. And to differentiate it from medicalization, medicalization is just when people would identify problems that weren't previously thought as medical problems to now thinking of them as medical problems and exercising control over these like diseases and illnesses. And biomedicalization is just integrating these innovations and change how we view medicine. And like the last slide said, clinical innovations are the heart of biomedicalization.
All right, so there are 5 processes or changes in the medical field that sparked a shift to biomedicine and technology in medicine. So I'm not going to go into every single one of these because we're going to cover them in the next couple slides. So change it. All right, so the first process is the political and economic reconstitution of the vast sector of biomedicine. And there are 3 socioeconomic changes that facilitated this. The first is corporatization and commodification of medicine. So since the 1990s, there's been a huge shift from public to private organizations for medicine. Because of the rising medical costs, nonprofit organizations are being bought out by for-profit organizations. And this is largely because of commodification. So commodifiable products such as medications created through research only profit these private organizations. A great example of this is the Human Genome Project, which started out as a federally based research project about mapping and understanding human genes, but related and additional developments that happened after it was a federally based research project. They're now patented by private organizations that offer no community or patient reimbursement. The centralization and devolution of services. So centralization is defined as control of an activity or organization under a single authority. And devolution is defined as less specialized fields falling under the healthcare category. So essentially, the healthcare corporations are incorporating more fields now under healthcare. So things like home healthcare, nursing homes, and outpatient surgery, even though these are less specialized and less complicated, they still fall under healthcare as the broad topic. So the effect of this, broadening the medical field for greater profit. So if you include more things under healthcare, then the healthcare corporations will make more money. Lastly, stratified biomedicalization. This is kind of the effect of the corporatization, commodification, and the centralization and devolution of services. So historically, medicalization was stratified by race, gender, class, etc. And while this is still the case in modern times, there's even more stratification with medical advances such as genetic testing, chemo prevention. So while some people are receiving technologically advanced care, others don't even receive basic medical care. And this creates an even wider gap in healthcare disparities. All right, so the next process is the focus on health itself and the elaboration of risk and surveillance biomedicines. So this is essentially changing the way that we look at medicine and health. So there's less focus on illness, disability, and disease. In the past, medicine has been about controlling disease, controlling pain, that's associated with disability or pain, or that's associated with disability or injury. But now there's a focus on being healthy and preventing illness. One of the biggest changes in perception is that health is a matter of moral obligation. So things like eating healthy, exercising, sleeping well, taking care of yourself, this is something that would be considered like morally correct, whereas sedentary lifestyle, eating badly, that would be like morally incorrect. So another thing is that health must be achieved through hard work. You can't just, I don't know, go to the gym once a month and say like, that's enough. You have to actually work at maintaining your health. So the next thing is risk and surveillance. This perception is that everyone is considered to be eventually ill. So everyone's bodies will deteriorate as you get older. And some people are obviously more at risk than others for disease. So now the focus is on managing risk through tests for breast cancer, heart disease, diabetes, etc. And the biggest change is that it's medicine is less about treating the symptoms now, but it's about treating the actual risk. So preventing something from happening because of risk factors. So the next process is the technoscientization of medicine, biomedicine. So there are three manifestations of technoscientization. The first is computerization and data banking. So now with records being online, there's wider access to these medical records from different providers and for patients too. So a great example of this is Duke MyChart, which is a big way to access medical records online in North Carolina. And I use this, that's why I think it's a good example. So whenever I go to the doctor, they will put basically the contents of what happened during that office visit into Duke MyChart so that other providers that I have can access these records. It also has like immunizations that I had as a baby. So basically what this allows is for other providers to access this information. So if you were to go to a new provider, you don't have to like write down all of your like family history, medical records, things like that. They can just access it online. So this is a very big change in technology with medicine. The second, molecularization and geneticization of biomedicine and drug design. It's a lot of big words, but I will break it down. So molecularization, that's attempts to understand diseases at the submolecular levels of proteins, individual genes, and genomes, while geneticization is the study of differences among humans at the genetic level. So basically what this is using genetics to precisely target diseases or conditions and to customize pharmaceutical therapies for groups and individuals. And these therapies are highly dependent on computer and information sciences because we need computers to map genetics and software to analyze this data. And this molecularization geneticization has been a major development and is considered the pinnacle of technoscience because what it's basically doing is making strides to tailor and customize bodies and drugs to fit specific people and specific diseases. Lastly, we have medical technology development. So medical technology has been advancing very quickly, obviously, and now there's new like novel genres of medical technology. If you think about it, less than 100 years ago, we didn't even know about DNA. And now we're able to custom grow body parts. We have bone growth stimulation devices and computer-driven prosthetics, things like that. These are brand new genres of medicine that we didn't have years ago. So something that comes with this is digitization of medicine. So shift from provider care to online or electronic care and procedures. An example of this, procedures like pap smears and biopsies are now being completely computerized or assisted by electronic devices.
Okay, so the fourth one is transformations of production and distribution of knowledge. So literature provides these really confusing like subtopics and wording, so I'm just going to break it down. So the first is heterogeneity of production, distribution, and access. And when you think about it, biomedicine and just science as a whole is really a big part of mass media culture. And it just like, even with like COVID, like it spread to social media and businesses and news sources, and it's just like everywhere. And so this is identified as like an increase in the number and diversity of sources of health-related information, and this can present some challenges of like identifying who is publishing the information and if it's actually true. And this can be seen as a disruption of the division between expert knowledge and just like personal opinion, which is a pretty relevant topic, just like with media literacy as a whole, just being able to identify if something is true or not. And so historically, biomedical information used to only be found in medical libraries and schools, which created kind of a professional monopoly on the information. And it wasn't until the 1970s that like women's movements and consumer health movements advocated for greater patient involvement in medical decisions. And so they needed access to this information. And it also helped having more technology and computers to spread this information and for them to access it. And this is shown with pharmaceutical companies are advocating for more consumers to build like knowledge about potential drugs they may be taking and to like proactively ask questions about it. And this is shown like in those commercials where like it'll advertise a drug and it'll be like, ask your doctor if this is right for you. One study found that 30% of Americans who watch these advertisements actually talk to their doctor about them, and that 44% of those patients were provided the prescription. And so it's just kind of changing patient-provider relationships in that respect. The second one is co-optation of competing knowledge systems. Basically, this is just meaning that people are becoming more accepting of alternative forms of medicine. They used to be labeled as like superstitions, and then it was culture-based healing systems. Now it's just alternative medicine as a whole. And at the end of the 20th century, there was an increase in the use of alternative medicine, and this is shown with the statistic that from 1993 to 1998, the estimate of out-of-pocket patient expenditures on alternative medicine jumped from 10.3 billion to 27 billion. And this can be seen as a threat to Western medicine. So they're kind of trying to incorporate aspects of it like herbal and nutritional supplements to not be beat out by alternative medicine. And the last one is techniques of legitimation of biomedical claims, which is basically just the standards used to determine if innovations are acceptable for humans. This is very evident with the creation of the FDA, which just regulates what's actually safe for people to consume. And so the last one is transformations of bodies and identities. The first principle is normalization to customization. So it's a transition from a one-size-fits-all approach to individualized technologies, and it's identifying that bodies aren't static, like they can be flexible and can be reconfigured. So this can be anything from like anti-aging treatments to like total body CAT scans to like detect early signs of disease. And bodies are no longer expected to adhere to the single universal norm. Okay, and the last one is technoscientific identities, which is a term for new types of risk-based, genomics-based, epidemiology-based identities. Some of these are new identities, and some of them are just redefining old ones. And for example, like you might be a carrier of an inherited disease, and with that information, you can go and seek out more knowledge and treatments based on that. And some of these technologies can be used for fertility treatments to combat the identity of being infertile, which can be very detrimental to some people. And there's also a shift of viewing menopause as a condition with like uneven symptoms, and it's just complicated and no one really understands it, to now it's a standardized like estrogen deficiency disease that can be treated with hormone replacement therapies. And these are our references, and thank you guys for watching, and we hope you have a great one.